And we are live and recording.
Okay, thank you. Y'all, welcome to Wednesday, November 4th meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission for the City of Rollingwood. Go ahead and we'll start with our quick and succinct roll call. Why don't I just do it by the order in which I see. I'll call your name and just say present here, whatever, a sign that says you're here and can hear me. Jamil Alam.
Present here.
Michael Rhodes. Mike, can you hear me?
Sorry, here.
Yeah. Tony Stein.
I'm here.
Okay, and Jordan Scott is present as well. We'll next move on to public comments for any items that are not on our agenda. If there's anyone in the public, you can, if you're on a phone, I think you hit *2. Otherwise, utilize the hand raising icon on your screen to raise your hand, and we will include you to speak. So now's the time to do that.
We do not have any hands raised right now.
Okay, then why don't we go ahead and end our public comments, and we will look at our consent agenda, which is the meeting minutes from our previous meeting. These were a bit more detailed. Does anybody have any questions? They've been communicated. The decisions were communicated to council already. Did anybody have anything in the minutes they'd like to pull? All right, hearing none, we'll go ahead and entertain a motion to vote on for approval of the minutes. All in favor, please. Well, first off, is there someone who'd like to motion approval?
Motion
Sure.
to approve.
Happy to.
All right, I think I heard Tony motion to approve and Mike second, so I appreciate that. All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Hey, for the record, that was Jamil that did the motion.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Thank you. So Jamil proposed it and Mike seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 And any opposed, say nay. All right, hearing none, motion passes unanimously. All right, we will then shift into our regular agenda. Our first topic, number 3, is a discussion on a variance request for a driveway with more than one curb cut at 4830 Rollingwood Drive. If you all will recall, there's a little strange bit of our code that sends curb cut variances to planning and zoning rather than the Board of Adjustment. So why don't we go ahead and ask the applicant to tell us what's going on.
And Carrie, I'm sorry, I don't know whose was who. Which applicant is it? Oh, is it for Zach Mills?
Yes, so the first one is for Zach Mills, and if it's all right, I'd like to go ahead and just give you all a little information ahead of time before we get to the applicants, if you're all right with that, Jordan.
Sure, that's great. Let's do that.
So we've got 3. They're all sort of similar. And part of what has come up is that the way the code is written, section 28-70, it allows a driveway with 2 curb cuts if they're on a continuous street. A variance from that goes to planning and zoning, but it also doesn't make clear if you're allowed to have multiple driveways serving one lot. So, for instance, if you have a driveway on Rollingwood Drive and a circular drive, an additional circular drive on Edgegrove, it's a little unclear as to whether people are allowed to have multiple driveways or just one. So that's a part of the code that I would say could use some cleaning up. And part of the reason that it goes to you all as opposed to BOA is that this is a safety and a planning issue rather than just a arbitrary zoning designation. And then I put in the one sheet that's in the packet that this will go on to council. It will not. You all will be the only deciding body on these variances. That's all I got.
Okay. So wait, restate the last bit. We're the only deciding body. It does not go to council.
Correct.
All right. Any other things that staff would like to add before we bring up our applicants?
Not yet. Not this time.
Okay. Well, then why don't we bring our first applicant? Sorry, I'm kind of jumping between. I'm deep down in the agenda. Let me pull back.
Here, and this one is Zach Mills, and Zach, you are unmuted. If you want to
Okay.
unmute yourself, you'll be able to speak.
Am I on here?
Okay.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. So I've got this corner lot on Edgegrove and Rollingwood. I've got my driveway comes off of Rollingwood Drive, but the front of my house is on Edgegrove. My biggest issue is there's no parking on Edgegrove. So I'm trying to get some guest parking. I tried to put a guest spot just with a curb cut and not a circular continuous driveway. I tried to get it to on the east side of the lot off of Edgegrove, but they didn't like that for safety reasons, I guess. So this continuous drive coming off of Edgegrove and then allowing us to exit on Rollingwood seems to be it's my plan at the time. Do you guys, do you guys have my site plan?
I want to make sure we got the right page number. So staff, please correct me if I'm wrong. I'm looking at page 23 in our packet on the PDF, not in the HTML. I don't know what the HTML says, but in the PDF, I'm looking at page 23. Is that right?
I'm going to it right now. I'm also in the HTML version.
Oh.
Let me pull.
Mine just says it's got the gray page ones from the software at the top. I don't.
I'm trying to get to where you are, Jordan. My computer's going slow.
Okay.
All right, it looks like on the PDF packet, it starts on page 22 is the one sheet, and then after that is the plans and everything.
Okay. All right, any questions from the commission for our applicant?
So I'm trying to find is there something that shows a drawing of the proposed driveway?
Oh, I see. I found it. Yeah, it's on page 22, like Jordan said.
Is it 22? Yeah.
Well, it's 23, I guess.
23 of the PDF.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm using the numbers at the top. I don't know how is it matched up. Yeah, I can't. I'm using the number in the upper left-hand corner of the page there. It's a larger.
Hey, Jordan. Jordan, did I
yeah.
hear from Ashley that we're going to hear 3 of these tonight?
Yeah.
That's correct.
So, well, I'll wait. I don't have questions of the applicant. I'll wait until we get to discussion.
I mean, I think my biggest struggle here is we're not Board of Adjustment, and so we don't have to go by the hardship rules, and but I do believe we'll set precedent. Am I correct? I guess that's a question for Charlie on.
No, I mean, every situation is factually different, correct? So, I mean, you just have to make your decisions based on each actual scenario.
Okay.
Okay, so this comes from Edge Grove and then exits. It's kind of a double with normal sized driveway on Rollingwood, and then it exits on Edge Grove in kind of a single lane. Is that what I'm looking at?
Yeah, that's
Correct.
right.
Okay.
So I understood the safety concerns with having if you're backing up into Edge Grove, but this seems to alleviate those, since it would actually be easier to get out of the driveway going frontwards out of Rollingwood Drive.
Carrie, are you allowed to have, forgetting about the safety concerns with Edge Grove, are you allowed to have 2 separate driveways? I mean, if you had the situation, you weren't worried about Edge Grove, could you have a, normal 2-car driveway on where it's shown on Rollingwood, and then have another single or double car kind of parking driveway off of another street on a corner lot?
That's the question that the code doesn't address. It says that you can have a double cut, but it doesn't say that you can have multiple driveways. It doesn't say that you can't, but it also specifically addresses single driveways and driveways with multiple cuts, but that act as a one single driveway. So it has been a challenge for our zoning reviewer and I to determine.
Why do we not allow parking on Edge Grove?
Because it's a safety concern.
Okay.
Now, what the applicant was originally requesting was an additional parking pad on Edge Grove, but that could create the situation that's not included. That was denied, so we came back with a revised plan.
Yeah.
It creates a scenario that the Follies are going to bring up in the next agenda item, which is that if you're backing out onto Edge Grove, it can create a situation where you're doing an illegal traffic maneuver, and it's dangerous. So if you're backing out, you could be backing across traffic, which was why we denied the additional parking pad there. It's really close to the stop sign, and there's a lot of traffic, and you would essentially be backing across traffic if you wanted to go out of the city.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. If this was the same setup, but it was not utilizing another street. If it was a circular driveway going off of Rollingwood and back onto Rollingwood and utilizing the garage, then we never would have had to come between the planning commission. Is that right? It's just because we're going off of, so we've still got 2 curb cuts, but 1 curb cut is on a different road.
Correct. It's the multiple street issue.
Carrie, are there other aspects like amount of frontage on the street and proximity to a curb? Are those also issues in our code?
It does address how close the curb cuts can be, but that is not an issue in any of these situations.
The second curb cut I'm asking for is actually already a curb cut. It was there for the previous house. I'm supposed to close it up.
The original driveway for 4830 Rollingwood was accessed on Edgegrove.
And not on Rollingwood. Okay.
Correct.
Right, but they had at least 2 big curb cuts off of Edgegrove. Yeah, there was 2 curb cuts already. I'm supposed to close up the curb cuts. I would like to utilize one of them for this continuous driveway.
Jordan, I got a question when it's
Okay.
appropriate.
Yeah, it's appropriate.
So what is to the west of the curb cut on Rollingwood Drive? Is there another driveway immediately adjacent, or is the neighboring driveway some distance away? I'm sorry, I said to the west. I meant to the east.
Do you mean across the street then, on the opposite side of Edgegrove?
No, your neighbor immediately next door. If I'm looking at your house from Rollingwood Drive, the neighbor to the left.
Jamil, I can answer that. That driveway's on the far east side. The lot to the east, the driveway's as far to the east as it can get, basically.
And so, I guess question for the applicant: is there any reason that your visitors can't park, just in front of your neighbor's house? I mean, as I think about the other houses that are mid-block along Rollingwood Drive, that's not that different. It's, maybe an extra 30-40 foot walk, but not that different than what they might have to deal with.
Well, being as that it's a corner lot and it's close to Edgegrove, you're right. We would have to park in front of the neighbor's house. It appears there's room to park in between our driveway and the corner, but there's really not the. In fact, I've put no parking signs there because we've had trades parking there and the police run them off because it's too close to the corner. So yes, the guest would have to park basically in front of the neighbor's house. And if you see the walkway off of Edgegrove, that's my front door. So it would be kind of a hike. There's no reason we can't, but yeah, it's not that convenient.
This, in looking at it looks like you had an approved site plan. And I think part of your driveway is poured, if I'm not correct. Is that right?
Yeah.
Now, did you pour what matches the original site plan? Because it looks to me like there's, and I'm just working from memory, but is it basically what you permitted previously, or what is it?
It's what I permitted previously.
Okay.
we
So
would have we would make a little bit of adjustment.
A quick aside to staff, I'm like overwhelmed with a lot of superfluous info. It's hard to get. Like I got gutter sections in this thing. So I would appreciate less is more, I think, in this case. I'm trying to find, I keep zooming by it. There was one plan that looked like it had guest parking off your driveway. Is that without actually extending all the way through?
Right.
That would allow for a turnaround in your driveway for a guest not to back out onto the street or be popping out onto Rollingwood. What's the status? Is that part of the request? This set to remain on site. Is that the existing one right now? Where it's
That's the existing one I think you're talking about. So if you're looking at the garage, there's a little hammerhead on the right side.
Okay. And the issue is that I'm struggling to see what the hardship is if you have guest parking right there. I'm struggling here. You have guest parking on your driveway.
There's a spot. Pardon?
Yeah, I'm so the idea is to extend the driveway to Rollingwood and create an exit
To Edgegrove.
to Edgegrove, sorry.
Yeah.
Well, I'd see it as more of an entrance off Edgegrove. To come in off of Edgegrove and exit Rollingwood.
Okay.
I think this is just a much better plan with a better flow and a lot more room to park.
And is there a reason that you can't just use the single curb cut off of Rollingwood and just create a little stub off to the right, kind of like your driveway's showing as that goes over to Edgegrove, but the stub's just 20 feet long?
That's what he's got on page 25, Jamil. I think he's got what you're talking about already approved.
It's not quite as big, but it's similar.
But he could extend that over kind of like that Airstream parking spot further down Rollingwood across the street and towards McDonald's by a few houses.
I don't think there's anything from preventing me from building this exact thing that I'm requesting other than the secondary curb cut.
And then
Right. So you could build all that. The question is whether we approve a curb cut, basically.
That's correct.
And you've got guest parking then on the left-hand side of that driveway as well. It looks like optional guest parking.
No, we didn't choose that option. Again, one of the big concerns is if you see where my front door is. So if we didn't even pour that optional guest parking because if guests park there, then they got to walk around the whole house to get to the front door. The biggest issue I have with this house is we've got the entrance to the house leading out to Edgegrove where nobody can park.
Right.
So I'm trying to establish some parking as close as I can to the entrance of the house.
No, and you've got a rear entrance on the left-hand side next to Rollingwood, from what I can tell. And then you've got garage entrance, I'm guessing?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. You could go through the garage, sure.
And is there another door that leads to the rear of the house, kind of between the pool and the garage there? Am I reading this right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't.
Yeah,
my guests aren't going to go around the back to the guest bath though.
Sure. Yeah, I can't tell what that room is from here. It's just a door.
Yeah, it's like a pool bath.
I'd like to offer that both guest pads that are listed on the plans, the one that's on the left directly across from the garage, and then the one that's on the right by the TV, that's allowable. As long as the one that's on the eastern side is 5 feet from the property line. So that's allowable without variance.
Is there any restriction on the length of that kind of stub if there were not a curb cut on Edge Grove? Can you extend that all the way out to the property line? I mean, is there a setback?
He'd be increasing impervious cover. That could create an issue.
And that was my question, Gary. The original site plan shows 46% impervious cover already. Is there? I guess there's some rainwater fee in lieu or something.
There's drainage capture at the rear of the lot, headed toward Timberline. The rear from Rollingwood. There are tree replacements that are obligatory before CO. So we have to be mindful. They have to be able to replant or have a plan for all of the trees. So there might be additional drainage review if they added more driveway that didn't result, in this curb cut. And then the tree replacement.
Our engineer has already reworked the impervious cover calculations for this continuous driveway submittal.
Is that included in here, or I don't see the original drainage plan, which I think got every other
drainage plan because it's approved and the amount of increase of impervious cover did not change that. So I didn't include that in the packet. What could cause an additional review would be if you continue to extend that Rollingwood Drive pad further. But the little addition to Edge Grove is not going to come into play. It's already been reviewed and approved.
We understand we've got the impervious cover covered and the tree replacements, none of that's a problem.
How does the commission want to handle this? Do you want to go through all three? Do we want to vote these out one at a time, just as a matter of form? That's kind of two different ways of handling it. Is handling it all individually, or look through all three and then vote? What's the desire of the commission?
I wouldn't mind seeing all three to have some perspective on the different types of issues that come up like this. And, I think one decision might impact our thoughts on another decision.
Okay.
I think this one basically boils down to, are we comfortable with a second curb cut? Or the other way of looking at it, are we comfortable with a circular drive that hits two streets instead of one?
Well, I'll just chime in. I think it'd be great for us to see the other one so we have some consistency. We had one of these come up 4, 5, 6 months ago, maybe longer. I forgot what street it was on, and I struggled mightily with that one. but it was more about a life safety issue because they were
Yep.
exiting out onto a street that was kind of had a cut through kind of hill, blind corner. And my concern was that by creating on a corner sort of this double curb cut condition, that we were just going to end up with parking lots in people's front yards. And it seems like, and maybe the applicant can correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like to me this one's a little bit of a self-inflicted wound. You could have chosen to face your house towards Rollingwood Drive and done a hammerhead on Edge Grove, so somebody could have pulled in and done a 90-degree and parked, and then backed out and done a 90-degree and fronted out. Or alternatively, if you wanted your guest parking on Rollingwood Drive, it would have been much closer to the front of your house. But because your house is facing Edge Grove and your driveway is facing Rollingwood, it's now sort of created an inconvenience for your visitors to park.
Yeah, I can't argue with that. Although if we did it that way and had we had our driveways off of Edge Grove, if we just had one driveway off of Edge Grove, there would have been nothing preventing that. Whereas now when I'm trying to get, a parking space over there, they're telling me there's safety concerns. But
and there are other driveways on Edge Grove, yeah.
And this particular house that we removed had 2 driveways off of Edge Grove, and the neighbor to the east has a perfect parking spot off of Edge Grove, just like I'm talking about. Of course, they predated any. I'm sure it was grandfathered. It was before it was against the rules.
Well, so question maybe for staff, but if the house had faced Rollingwood and the curb cut was off of Edge Grove and it was a single curb cut and the garage was off of Edge Grove, but there was a hammerhead that allowed for a guest parking and a turnaround so that you could front out onto Edge Grove, would staff have had an issue with that over life safety, backing up into Edge Grove, or do you think you would have been okay with it as a single curb cut?
Well, the original home had their driveway and garage access on Edge Grove and the front of their house on Rollingwood. It was a double driveway, kind of with a hammerhead like you described, if I'm remembering correctly. I think it is a busy intersection with a stop sign there. The next applicant is requesting something similar, kind of for similar and opposite reasons, which is that they see a danger of having their driveway on Edge Grove. There are other driveways on Edge Grove. This is kind of a two-pronged issue. I do see a safety concern being right there at that stop sign. Just driving it every day and seeing how many near collisions there are. But that doesn't, I have to follow the code. And in this case, the code just isn't really clear. It's not clear what the intention or the spirit of the code is as it relates to, multiple different curb cuts.
I confess I'm struggling with placing I remember this house, and they kind of had that weird porta cachet and then a driveway to the side of their house that was probably the garage at some point. And struggle with the idea of a curb cut this close to the, or continuing a curb cut this close to the stop sign and corner. I don't think this is in our purview, but I'll just state it. I don't have an issue with, you know, a driveway to nowhere, so to speak, further to the north of the lot, down, physically down Edgegrove towards Bee Caves, to enable to get some guest parking, you know, off to the side, but close to that front walkway. There's other stuff like that in Rollingwood where you've got, you know, parking spots kind of tucked in the corner of the yard. I wouldn't mind hearing from the neighbors. I don't even know if that's a thing. Yeah, and I mean, I apologize, y'all. We just don't tackle. This is just not what this commission does. So we get to all figure this out together. It's just a wonky bit of code. I'll say this: the house to the east, further down Edgegrove, has a driveway. The house across the street on Edgegrove has a driveway, but it's pretty damn close to the turn. So if I had my druthers, I'd be putting it. If we're gonna put a driveway on Edgegrove, I'd prefer to go to the furthest north. I guess that's the northeast corner of the. Anyways, the furthest north corner of the lot.
That was my first choice. If you see where my walkway comes out to Edgegrove, I first requested a guest parking spot just above that, like just on your page above that, east, I guess.
Yeah, and I'm guessing the issue is there's no real clear turnaround area. At least that's what.
But on the other hand, if the safety concern is somebody parking there and backing off Edgegrove, there's nothing backing on Edgegrove. There's nothing to stop somebody with this proposed from pulling in off of Edgegrove and backing out on Edgegrove either.
What 100%. Yeah.
And that may not be the intent, but
super
you know,
close
how
to
can
the
you?
stop sign and the curb of one of the busiest intersections by my count, anyways, in Rollingwood. So, well, let's do this. Are there any other questions for the applicant? All right, hearing none, I'm going to move to table this if there's a second, and then we'll tackle these. We'll come back. We'll go through all three and then come back and vote through.
Second.
Given that's what. So, motion to table. Is there a second?
Second from Jamil.
All right. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Yeah. Any opposed, say nay. All right. We're tabling item 3 and moving into item 4. Let me make sure I got the page numbers correct on this one. Let me do it. Sometimes it's easier with the internet one. Oops. All right, so we're gonna look at a variance from section 2870, subsection 4, to look at 4900 Rollingwood Drive. That looks like page 64 is the start of it, y'all. And this is
Looks like Jordan got kicked out and back in now. Jordan, are you back in? There you go.
I'll entertain a motion to get a new video conferencing software for the city. Holy moly. All right. I don't know what happened, but I'm back. All right. So we're looking at neighbors across the street, if I've got that right. Carrie, am I right? It is the neighbors across the street, correct? Did I lose you all again?
Yes.
Just muted. That's correct. It's the neighbors on the other side of Edge Grove, on the corner of Rollingwood Drive and Edge Grove.
All right, y'all. So we're starting at page 65. Let me swipe over. I will say this, your house looks pretty cool to the previous applicant. I enjoyed looking at it. It's got a cool interior. A quick aside as I swipe through. Okay, so we got a driveway that will extend a new curb cut off of Rollingwood between the entryway and the corner that will extend to an existing concrete driveway. Okay. Any questions from the commission?
I have one question that's totally off topic. Who is it? I guess it's city council that would review, you know, if somebody wanted to add another stop sign somewhere, like at this intersection.
It should be, yeah.
Yeah. All right. I was just curious. It looks like, you know, more or less the same thing here. The same concept anyway.
Yeah. Okay. Any questions, any clarification questions for the applicant? Would you guys like to hear from the applicant? I'd love to hear from him. Carrie, do you have anything you want to say? Before we hear from the applicant, Carrie, is there anything you'd like to add to the conversation?
No.
Okay.
Isn't this one kind of the opposite where, and maybe I've gotten my streets turned around, but am I seeing it right that the curb cut is on Rollingwood, or excuse me, is on Edge Grove, and the applicant's requesting a curb cut on Rollingwood to connect over to their driveway that then goes to Edge Grove?
Correct.
Got it. Okay.
And Mr. Thommy, you are unmuted. If you want to unmute yourself and address the commission.
Hey, can you all hear me?
There you are. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, some technical problem. So this is coincidentally literally across the street. I think one page I might draw your attention to is page 69, so I can kind of orient you to the scenario. And this page, the top of the page is roughly north, the bottom of the page is roughly south, so I can speak to the directions. The way this current house works is the existing driveway kind of forces a driver to pull out backwards onto Edge Grove. And I think we've talked about this in the past, but just now it's a fairly dicey corner. And so pulling out reverse is not optimal. You can reverse into the driveway. That's also not optimal from a safety standpoint. And so we looked at two different options here. One was to do like a turnaround, right, to the north, which effectively would allow you to pull out of the driveway and reverse and turn around and pull out onto Edgegrove forward. There's not enough radius in order to do that. That was the first option, by far the most cost-effective option for us. But there's not enough radius to do that to get your front of your car back onto to pull out frontwards onto Edgegrove. Of course, we also looked at it on the south. There's not enough room there because due to the trees. So then we looked at option B, which would be to reorient our garage to the north, right? So that we would do away with the driveway to the east, ask for a new driveway northbound onto Rollingwood, which would give you enough to turn around, but that's a load-bearing wall and was not optimal from a cost standpoint. So this was kind of the third option, which was it allows you to pull in. To pull out from the garage and exit the property, pull out forward onto Rollingwood. So that's what this is. Impervious cover is a non-issue here. I can get into the calculations there if you have any questions, but this was our next best alternative, was to ask for a variance.
So I guess I'll go down the same path I did with your neighbor across the street. So, is there any issue with your visitors parking? Is this about visitor parking? Is that what we're trying to solve?
No, we don't have a visitor parking issue. They can park on Rollingwood. So it's not about that. It's purely about the numerous close calls we've had backing out of the driveway.
And so there's not a way to. I mean, I think you said this, but there's not a way to design a hammerhead where you can back up 90 degrees and then front out onto Edgegrove.
There's not. Yeah, I just Googled hammerhead, by the way. But no, I was thinking of a turnaround right to the northbound. But as the way that you don't have enough angle arc in order to pull a car out of the north edge of that garage into what would be a new hammerhead and pull out. The physics don't allow for that. And then likewise southbound, you have a little bit more, if there were no trees, you'd have a little bit more room from the setback from the road in order to do that. But there's some massive trees in the way.
Do you have notes from an architect that sort of describes that? Because I frankly got to admit I'm struggling about there not being enough room for a hammerhead.
Yes, I do. I didn't include it in the packet. Sorry. I don't know if there's a way to share that, like through your whatever this is, Zoom alternative.
You can share if you.
The other option. The other option, and I realize this isn't the ask, but the potential that you put the driveway closer to the street, and that would allow enough of an angle to pull to back a car out, to do a hammerhead, I guess.
Can you share what you have from an architect showing that? Because I tend to agree. I think a hammerhead, I know it's not spacious, but I think it would work.
So it could work if you were to get a variance to the hammerhead would be closer to the street.
Yeah, what would the rule be on that, Carrie? How close or how far from the street do you have to be on the?
You wouldn't need a variance to do a hammerhead.
Could the hammerhead be a foot off the curb?
Off of which curb?
Off of the Edgegrove curb?
Yes, I don't see why not.
Well, I guess the question is, can you put a hammerhead part of your driveway in the setback?
I think so.
Yeah, all driveways are in the setback to some extent, so I don't think that there'd be any reason you couldn't have some kind of.
I guess the next question I have is it doesn't work if you park your cars in the driveway, I'm guessing. But if you park them in the garage, a hammerhead would work. But if I leave my cars in the driveway. If you're leaving them in the driveway, then a hammerhead, there's not enough room. Is that what I'm hearing?
Actually, well, that would for sure be true, but the hammerhead wouldn't allow a car's radius to turn reverse without going into the setback.
Okay, but it may be that may not be as much of an issue as previously thought.
I don't see an issue off the top of my head. I have to go back and look at the code this way, but I don't see an issue with having a hammerhead. I think the issue would be more of an aesthetic issue of having it extend in front of the front foundation, which is not against code.
Yeah, so just to be clear, that's totally an option. If you think that there's the variance to have a car close to the setback on that corner, that potentially solves the problem. I haven't designed it to determine if you can have a car parked in the driveway. I think that you wouldn't be able to turn around with a car parked in the driveway. But you would if there were all cars were always in the garage, for sure.
Well, does that even require a variance? I mean, you can put a concrete pad in the setback.
Yes, a hammerhead or a concrete pad would not require a variance.
You say it would or would not?
Would not.
Yeah.
There are some specifics about radiuses and how an approach has to be crafted, but it doesn't really speak specifically to a hammerhead or a kind of a tee off of the driveway.
Any additional questions for the applicant? All right, hearing none, I'm going to motion to table. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, motion's been seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All right, all opposed say nay. Hearing none, motion to table passes unanimously. Let's move on to our next one.
Also want to clarify, it looks like Brian Nash has joined the meeting, just so y'all know he is there.
And I voted aye
Okay.
to tabling it, just for the record. So it was an important vote that I made.
Thanks, Brian.
Let me get back up to my top of my page here. All right, let's switch to 5000 Rollingwood Drive, which starts at page 78 in the upper left-hand corner and section 5 in your right-hand corner. So
I'll offer that this one's a little bit different. They're requesting a circular drive on Rollingwood Drive, which is allowed. But again, the code doesn't speak to allowing numerous driveways on numerous streets. So the circular driveway itself is allowable, but they have an existing driveway and a garage on Ridgewood. So that's why this has been brought to you.
on Ewing. Okay. So I'm looking at page 80. You can see the existing house has an existing driveway off of Ewing. with an entryway off Rollingwood. And then the new house contemplates an expansion of that curb cut on Ewing, as well as a second entry and exit. Carrie, what does the code say about entries and exit, or can we assume that this drawing as drawn is up to code? There's enough room, there's enough distance between the cuts. Do we have anything? I don't recall anything. We just don't do this. So I'd appreciate being brought up to speed on what the code says you need to do for a circular driveway.
This plan doesn't appear to conform with code. Let me get you the specifics. It says the only thing that would come into play is that the center lines of the driveway are no closer than 35 feet. And the edge of any resulting driveway is not closer to the side of the property line than 5 feet.
Okay. All right, Carrie, any additional information you'd like to share with us on this application?
No, I would just offer that if this is something, I would appreciate having y'all kind of gut check on issues like this, so that maybe we can bring this to you all for clarification. Just, you know, what the community wants. If you want people to be able to have kind of a side or rear access drive and then a circular drive around the front, or if you want to limit the number of curb cuts. I do think that depending on where it is, there could be safety concerns. I don't know that there are any specific safety concerns at this location, unlike that corner at Grove, which is really busy. You know, obviously all of Rollingwood Drive is, but you'd be entering and exiting on the same street. So that's not really the issue. It's more what does the community want? What do y'all want to see?
I mean, respectfully, Ridgewood's a pretty busy street, which is the other corner of Ewing. But Ewing's pretty quiet, I would imagine. Okay. Can we go ahead and hear from our applicant then?
Absolutely. Mr. Stanford, I've unmuted you, and you can unmute yourself. And you have the floor.
All right. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
All right. Thank you. Just one point of clarification on those drawings. Those were previously approved plans for a new home that is not being built, but it's solely the circular drive that we're referencing right now. So it's not anything other than the driveway. And really, it's more than anything has to do with the proximity to our front door. So this house is, 50, 60 years old, facing the front door is facing Rollingwood Drive, and it is not set up or geared or designed to support parking over on the Edgegrove side of the corner lot there. And one of the things that we've figured out here pretty quickly with the house next door that's being built and having the tradesmen that are parking in front of our house is that it creates a pretty significant safety hazard. And I can I actually took some pictures today. I can share with you all if you want me as well. That just shows that, you know, our walkway goes out to Rollingwood Drive, but there's nothing conducive to walking around from Edgegrove other than going onto Rollingwood Drive and then turning left and then coming to our front door. And so ultimately what we'd love to have is just a circular drive that allows our guests to be able to park off of Rollingwood Drive and enter directly into our front door rather than having to park on Edgegrove and, you know, come around the corner and then down our walkway. And I can share those pictures if I knew what I was doing. Carrie, is there anything that I need to do to be able to?
I will go ahead and set you. Jordan, do we want to see those pictures?
I mean, I'm highly aware of it. Does everybody else? I mean, Tony lives down the street. We're aware of the issues created by that construction project next door. Jamil, anybody else want to see him? I'm happy to share.
No, I'm good, and I can't see on IP video anyway, so I'm just looking at the PDFs.
We can see you, Jamil. We can see you.
I'm sorry about that.
Tony, I mean, you live right there. Mike, do you need visual help?
No, I got it.
I think part of the hard thing here is, yeah, this section too, it's nice to have the sidewalk, but it does, you know, there's no separate, I mean, the street's fairly narrow there in part because of the sidewalk, so there's just not really anywhere to park in front of your house on that section of Rollingwood without blocking the street.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, this is a bit of a different case. Any questions for the applicant on this? Or for staff? All right, hearing none, I'll make a motion to table and accept a second.
Second.
All right, any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and take a vote. All in favor of tabling, I think this is item 6. Do I have that right?
5.
5, sorry. All in favor of tabling item 5, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed, say nay. All right, motion to table passes unanimously. All right, we've been through all 3. How to handle it? I think we have to. We can talk about all 3 together if the commission's open to that, and accept 3 separate motions, or we can go back through them individually. Do I have that right, Charlie?
Yes, you have that right.
Okay.
Hey Jordan, before we get into any individual case, it seems to me that this is a little bit more of just a threshold discussion. It's interesting that we've had 3 come to us on the same night that are all on Rollingwood Drive, that are all on corners, but that all have sort of slightly different fact sets around them. But to me, kind of the threshold question is, our code currently does not allow 2 curb cuts, and do we want to start opening Pandora's box, because the reasons for the curb cuts from each applicant, are a combination of convenience or ease of fronting out versus backing out onto a street, convenience for visitor parking, and it seems to me like we need to make a decision because we're going to have a real hard time, I think, if we approve these, turning down others that come forward.
Okay.
Yeah, I had the same sentiment, and I kind of, you know, in the classic sense, I think of variances like what's the hardship, and you know, really for most of these, I empathize, and they do seem like nice conveniences, but is there really a hardship, and do we want to, you know, are we bound by that in this? You know, I don't know, but it just feels like if we're gonna open it up, like Jamil said, it's going to be very hard. We're going to be approving 3 different ones for 3 very, you know, for 3 somewhat different reasons. So who's to say the next reason isn't just as valid?
Tony, any thoughts? Brian?
You know, I mean, I guess it goes back to history of, you know, why originally, you know, the code was written how it was, you know, with this currently not allowed by code. Yeah, and is it, you know, more of a revisiting code and whether this type of additional curb cut on a corner should be allowed or, you know, shouldn't? It's almost, yeah, if we're going to approve all 3 of these, we should probably change the code. Or be prepared to do it on every corner, you know, provide a variance on every corner lot. But yeah, I mean, all of them, I understand the reason, you know, individually I can look at it and understand the reason it's being requested, and, you know, and can empathize with that, particularly with me living on, you know, a busy street myself.
I kind of share similar sentiments to what Tony just expressed, for whatever it's worth. I think that maybe since we're revisiting the code in general as part of the Strike Force comprehensive plan, I think we need to start thinking about whether or not a curb cut requirement like this is necessary. Because, Carrie, correct me if I'm wrong, you can have a double curb cut if you're doing a circle drive. That's not a problem. But it's when you kind of start exceeding that or having more than one that aren't connected. Is that right?
Correct. It doesn't, it neither expressly allows or disallows multiple different driveways. The only thing that it says is that that you can have a circular driveway, but that you cannot have a circular driveway that connects 2 streets without a variance. So it doesn't address multiple.
You can't have a circular drive that connects 2 streets. Is that what you said?
Correct.
Because there is one that's at Hatley and, what is that, Vale? Hatley and Vale, where it's a circle drive that connects 2 streets.
Yeah, I think that's right.
I know that there's one at 209 Ashworth, which is the one you looked at about a year ago. It's a circular. It's a through and through that connects 2 streets.
The one that's at Hatley and Vale, I think I've seen people cut through on their way to ACL Fest. They like cut the corner that way. It's the only reason why I know about that one. Anyway, I think this is something that we should make sure gets teed up as part of our code discussion too. Because like Tony said, if we're going to do variances here, maybe the code just doesn't make sense to have a restriction on this issue.
I would agree that there's a decision that needs to be made as to whether the community wants multiple driveways, and you know, a driveway on one side of the property that's a visitor lot, and then an additional driveway on another side of the property that's more like the garage service entry, or if you want to limit the number of driveways to, having either one circular that's ingress and egress on the same street, or one that connects to a garage. But
Yeah, I mean, my personal opinion on this is that I don't have a problem with any of them. I think, in all situations, you're getting more cars off of streets, which I think is positive as it relates to safety and aesthetic. I just fundamentally don't see, how any of these, make any other residents' situations worsened. I think it's more just a fundamental question of we have code that says what it says, and there's a reason for that at some level when it was originally written. And I think the question is whether we want to change that code or not, whether it's by an actual change in code or by approving, variances like this that come through.
I'll also offer that this isn't related to the variance, but it should be considered when considering changing the code that we require a hard-topped driveway. Do we have different feelings about allowing driveways that are crushed granite, or do we feel differently about driveways that don't add impervious or that do? I think that's another valid consideration.
I confess I'm struggling to see how one of these cases applies to us under 2870, because the limitation of this is that the first two definitely apply to us. It's driveways with more than one curb cut, circular driveways or continuous driveways with more than one curb cut are allowed, provided, et cetera, only allowed on one street on corner lots. This includes driveways that cut across corner lots from one street to an intersecting street. So,
there is a document included in the packet that's an email exchange between me and our code reviewer, Lauren. And she says that guest parking with this revision, she's talking about 4830 Rollingwood Drive, but in this instance, 5000 Rollingwood Drive would apply as well. Guest parking with this revision from section 28-70 isn't clear if two separate driveways are permitted on residential lots. The section of the code would seem to imply that two driveway cuts are allowed if it's continuous, but it just doesn't address if there are two driveway cuts that are not continuous.
Right. Okay.
US or
What
adjacent.
page are you looking at?
It's page 63.
Page 63.
I'm gonna show my bias. We have, because Rollingwood in large part is a community that I mean there are many blocks that only have 4 or 5 houses or even 3 houses per block length. I'm just struggling with seeing curb cuts everywhere. I lean into walkability and kids. Hopefully one day, if we ever get sidewalks everywhere, riding their scooters and bikes and stuff up and down sidewalks, and just the idea of creating more vehicular conflict with pedestrians, and using our lots as sort of storage devices in our on our corners for parking cars is just, from an urban form perspective, I'm just struggling with it.
I'll take the counter to that is, you know, it's not, none of these are going to create any additional cars, you know, that live in our city. So those cars are going to be somewhere. They're either going to be in a driveway or on the street. And then the other part I'll say, you know, in terms of if you're looking for hardship with these, you know, me, for example, one of the gating questions before I bought my house was, can I build a circular drive and can I create additional parking, because there's no parking on the street really at all from a practical standpoint. And because I'm not on a corner drive, I was able to create a circular drive. And so I have 2 curb cuts. Based on what I see with all these scenarios, none of these could create a circle drive absent giving up a curb cut to a garage, because there's not enough room where their garage is to create a circular drive in any of these scenarios. So, you know, part of that is just my own situation and how I addressed it. But, you know, I sympathize probably more than maybe others that, like Brian, that live on, you know, fancy cul-de-sac lots.
I've told you multiple times you're always welcome to visit. You can't stay for very long, but you're always welcome over here for an hour or two. I think that, you know, another thing to consider is that our community has changed over time, right? I don't think probably Rollingwood Drive today was near what it was 20 or 30 years ago. So I'm sympathetic to what Tony's articulating, which is just that I think some of these, I mean, it's not a coincidence we're seeing all 3 of these are on a very busy road, right? So maybe it's a better situation to keep the code as it is, but to permit variances where there's, you know, kind of a traffic issues or something like that. Which would go to your concern, Jamil, about, you know, it's not a universal thing, but rather something that kind of, well, because the sort of traffic patterns have evolved the way they have, maybe it's something that we need to kind of make some accommodations for that.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that they're all a little different, but I think in the first case, it's strictly convenience. They could put a turnaround for safety. They could have guest parking. It's a, you know, it's a little bit of a self-inflicted wound. The second one, I think, is, you know, I think it's going to be a little unsightly cutting, especially with 2 driveways cutting across the hedge grove right there. I think it's going to maybe look a little funny, and I think, you know, I think they could get a turnaround as well, you know, in that setback, and I think that would work. But I'm also very concerned about just opening up multiple curb cuts everywhere, especially if it's, you can have a circular drive and then another curb. I mean, you have 3 curb cuts on one lot. That's, you know, I don't know another municipality that would allow that or that does allow that on a residential lot. And it just seems like a can of worms to open up that, you know, who knows where it ends. I know these are on Rollingwood, and certainly that plays in, but still.
What if it's a really large lot too? That's another thing I was kind of thinking about. Like, some of these are pretty small and tight, but if they're really big lots later on, like if the Cedars house was, I don't know if that's technically one lot or not, but I think that'd be one where you'd have a reason why you would have multiple cuts, because you span kind of a block.
Well, you get the bigger lot, right? It's easier to put in a bigger circular drive to a garage farther back, you know, kind of like Tony's situation where he was able to swing it and make it work within code. You know, probably get more flexibility.
Yeah, I'm envisioning like Brad and Courtney Elliott's house along Rollingwood Drive, and I'm not picking on them. I think it's a beautiful house, but I'm just envisioning Rollingwood Drive from Bee Caves to Mopac, with double curb cuts the whole way.
Well, I think most of those houses could probably do that if they wanted to, right?
Yeah,
Like they
it's
could do a
allowed
circle
unless
drive.
it's a corner. Yeah.
I mean, the Stein
Well,
family's already done it before we could even stop it. So it's happening.
Oh, I heard that while it wasn't allowed, it wasn't not allowed. Did I hear that wrong?
No, it specifically allows for a double curb cut if it's a continuous circle drive. It just, both curb cuts have to hit the same street.
Got it.
So the Stanford one at 5,000 Rollingwood, if he were to give up his driveway he has now to his garage, could create that circular drive in front. The issue with him is he has now 3 curb cuts and on 2 different streets.
Yeah, but does the code doesn't address that? Am I right?
But it doesn't address what, Jordan?
3 curb cuts.
It
doesn't even contemplate it.
Well, I think it tells you what's allowed, and so implicit in that is 3 curb cuts would be disallowed. Maybe, I don't know. We've got Carrie, we've got a lawyer.
We interpret the code either way, which is makes my job hard.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, and we defer the interpretation of the code to staff unless it becomes a legal issue.
That was Charlie who just spoke?
It was.
Okay, thank you. All right, y'all, we've been at it an hour and a half. We got 3 on our plates. 2 of them seem similar. One of them's a little different. Generally, I'm hearing not huge consensus, to be honest. So
I don't think you've articulated your positions on this, Jordan. What are your thoughts? What were your thoughts? I didn't hear what you said.
Oh, I struggle with corner curb cuts that put cars close to the turn, so to speak. I don't actually have an issue with multiple curb cuts. As long as safety is not a problem. For me, it's a safety issue if it's close to that stop sign or close to a curb, especially when lots of people are using. Jamil, I think, said it best. The last time we did this, we were allowing egress onto a basically non-traffic dead-end 1-block street that made it much safer to exit the property as opposed to exiting into Ashworth next to a big hill where cars coming over that hill couldn't see the car exiting. So I'm just coming at it purely from a safety standpoint. Don't like exfiltration or even infiltration near a stop sign or near a corner. So that's my 2 cents on this. I'm struggling with the code on the other one that talks about, adding a curb cut on one street. I may be alone in this, but when I interpret the code, it says, here's what you're allowed to do. It says you're allowed to build that type of curb. It also says you're also allowed to have a curb cut and a driveway into your garage. And it says you can build a circular driveway. It doesn't mention circular driveway that also goes to your garage. So I got to admit, we don't have to like it, but my reading of the code kind of says you can have multiple curb cuts until we go in and modify the code that says you can't. That's my 2 cents on it. But I'm not tasked with reading the code. Does that help? I'm one of those, we're not disallowing it, and it seems to allow this type of driveway. So if we don't want it, that's up to council, not necessarily us. So I'm actually struggling to see why that one's hitting planning and zoning. But I get it, Carrie. If you are interpreting it differently, it says this is where it needs to come. For this type of circular driveway. So I think I just talked myself in a circle there.
Oh,
Nothing y'all
well
aren't used to.
played. Well played. Good pun. Talk yourself in a circle. Nice. So on that one, you're saying you don't think it's a variance. It doesn't need a variance, is basically what you're saying.
Putting in a circle driveway on one deal. The issue is that they have a second curb cut, but the code just doesn't contemplate. And my argument is the code doesn't contemplate that. But I understand. That's my take on it. Carrie, not
Cool.
undercutting you. I'm just saying it doesn't really contemplate the fact that there's a driveway on the other perpendicular street that goes into a garage.
I don't disagree with you. I kind of went back and forth with our zoning reviewer, Lauren, and
I will say that particular stretch from a safety standpoint, it's like almost the opposite. It's like, what can we do to get cars off of that street? Because it is I drive by it a lot, and with that construction going on, and the fact that you've got Westlake on the other side of the street, it's tight. So anything that gets cars off of Rollingwood Drive is, I think, helps with safety, especially at a corner. So that's my 2 cents from the safety standpoint on that particular one. Yeah, the other two, I do think the hammerheads would probably suffice for the use scenario and safety scenario. All right, we are tabled on all three of these right now. So our options, as I understand them, and Charlie, please correct me if I'm wrong. 1, they can remain tabled. We can bring these back up next week. We don't have to do this week, next month, pardon me. 2, vote on these individually. I think those are our only 2 options. Am I correct? Charlie?
Right. Yeah, you can vote on them individually, or you can postpone them until the next meeting, which would take another motion.
Is there really anything we're going to learn between now and next meeting? I mean, I'm just trying to be respectful of the applicants so they can plan.
100% agree. I can go to council and try to get them to take this off our plate and go back to the Board of Adjustment, but that's just me.
Well, just to let everybody know where I stand, and also so the applicants don't know that I'm picking on any one project. As I said earlier, I'm a fan of taking cars off Rollingwood and putting them on side streets if you're on a corner, and I really care a lot about minimizing vehicular and pedestrian conflict, and so encouraging any more than one curb cut is just it's just not something that I'm probably going to support. To the extent our current code already allows something, then nothing I can do there. But I struggle with all 3 of these.
Would any other commissioners like to give their thoughts from a general standpoint before we go in and vote each one individually? All right, hearing none, I'm going to go ahead and reopen. Sorry, I'm struggling. We got a giant packet. Let me go back up to the top here. We're gonna.
Do the applicants want us to vote today, or would they rather we tabled it? I guess, is there a prejudice to tabling it to them? That would be my question. Sorry, I didn't unmute fast enough.
That's fine. Applicants, do you have any sense? Right now, the situation, you're tabled, meaning this can be brought up next month. Or do you want us to vote?
I'll tell you, my sort of leaning would be towards tabling so that I could get a better sense of what community members feel about this as a general issue, but not on these specific projects, but rather on the idea of curb cuts. But I also don't want to hold them back because they have to wait on P&Z to do something when, if it's better that we just take action now so they can push this to the council and get a resolution there instead. That's the query I have for everybody.
I don't think this gets pushed to council though, does it? And then just stop with us?
This does not get pushed to council, and if you want to know staff's opinion, I'd rather y'all make a decision just so that we can let these guys know.
Sorry, I couldn't hear what Carrie said. Did she say it does go to council or it doesn't?
Can everybody quickly mute?
It does not go to council.
All right, one of y'all maybe, unfortunately, for some reason, creating a little bit of feedback. Carrie, looking at the code, where'd it go? Oh, okay. Did I read in the code that there is a means by which, if they are denied a curb cut, they can go to council and argue on any curb cut?
I have not seen that. It just says it goes to planning and zoning. Charlie, I'd ask you to weigh in if they can appeal your decision to council.
No, it goes to P&Z. City council doesn't have any jurisdiction. They can amend the code, but they don't have any authority to give a variance.
All right. Respectfully, let me read this bit of the code if I can find it. Oh, sorry, that was for commercial. No. Okay. 2862, any person requesting permission to construct a curb or gutter who's denied, I guess that's not a cut, that's the curb, may submit a request for a variance to the city council after receiving determination from the building official under this section. When submitting such a request, an applicant shall include a written statement about why they feel the building officials determine. It's kind of confusing. I'm looking at 28-62 subsection B. But that may be superseded by A, Charlie, if I'm not an attorney.
So 28-62 states that any variance to the requirements in 2870, which is what I was reading, yes. 2870 talks about driveways with more than one curb cut.
Yeah.
Has to go to the P&Z.
Okay.
A person requesting permission to construct a curb or gutter who is denied by the building official. So that's different, right? One is a variance from the requirements of the code. So that's what we're talking about here with these, is my understanding, is okay. That we're requesting a variance to the code, not a denial of the building official to construct a curb and gutter. In other words, it's two different things.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. All right, I think I'm gonna go ahead and vote. This doesn't prevent anybody from bringing it back, but why don't we go ahead? Brian, I heard you saying you wanted time. We'll talk about this a little bit later. The planning strike force, or sorry, the Rollingwood strike force, it's gonna be months before we're at this level of detail in the code, potentially years. So I'll throw that out there. Can
I interject?
Yeah, yes.
All right, I'm Zach Mills. I'm the applicant on 4830 Rollingwood. So I would ask to table mine. I'm not sure, Karen, you can help me out with this. I'm not sure why my first request of just guest parking instead of a circular driveway, it didn't get this far. Then I made a couple changes, and I made another change and didn't get this far. And then I made this change, and Carrie brought me to y'all. So it seems like I have a better chance, and it would be more actually within the code if I amend my request for guest parking on a different part of my lot, and I would ask to table me so I can do that.
Well, you are tabled right now.
I'll offer that Zach's original request puts him in a similar camp, 5,000 Rollingwood, which was that the code does not speak of multiple different cuts on different streets. And that email between Lauren and I, that was the original determination of those original plans with the extra on edge growth, separate from the driveway on the.
Yeah, so if you deny him on that curb cut, then he can go to council for an interpretation request, essentially, is that right? And council could disagree with you that that second curb cut is allowed?
Charlie, is that correct? Could we go to council?
I don't know. I would need more time than to look at it than just try to give you an off the cuff quick answer.
Hey, Mike, I think the feedback may be coming from you. So I'll just ask you to, happy to have you jump in, but there's a lot of feedback when you spoke. So if you don't mind muting. If you could just write down your comments and hold that up to the screen and we'll just read them, that'd be awesome. Thank you. All right. So we got one applicant that's fine to stay tabled. It's up to us. I'm happy to let them stay tabled if y'all want to do so. Does anybody, and then Brian, you've asked for more time to stay tabled. So we got Brian and one commissioner.
The only reason I can see being tabled is, you know, it would be nice if we had a full slate of our commission members to get other opinions, but of course there's obviously not a guarantee that we'll have any more if we listen to this again in a different meeting.
This is Vaughn Stanford. Can I interject at any point?
No, not until you're recognized by the chair.
Well, Mr. Chairman, may I be recognized for a comment, please?
Yes, you may.
I've lived on Rollingwood Drive, and I've been in Rollingwood, I believe, longer than anybody that's currently attending this meeting. And I can say unequivocally and without a doubt that getting cars off of Rollingwood Drive, as Mr. Stein alluded to, is a benefit. And so for me to have the ability to just move my 2 or 3 gas cars that are coming to my house, trying to use my front door that's been here for 50 years, I don't think is an unreasonable request. It's a safer opportunity for them to ingress and egress from my property than it is for them to park over on the side street, walk around to Rollingwood Drive to my current front door, and enter my house. So my request is that at least for 5,000 Rollingwood Drive, that it is not tabled, that it is approved. And I think there's plenty of merit and plenty of reason to approve it. So I appreciate y'all's consideration.
All right. I'm going to hold off on the next one. We're going to do these by one at a time just so we can get back into proper format. We've been wandering a little bit. Item number 3, is there a motion? It is currently tabled. Does anybody wish to bring a motion on item number 3? That motion could be to postpone.
Item number three is, that's Zach that wanted to be tabled, right?
Correct. So you can bring that as a motion. You can bring a motion to deny. You can bring a motion to approve, and I believe a motion to table. Charlie, correct? Is there any difference between postponement and tabling? It's the same thing under Robert's rules. Am I correct?
No, tabling is when you're gonna is you're tabling it so you can hear it later in the meeting. Postponing it is when you want to postpone it to another time and another date.
Okay.
So it'd be a
Thank you
motion
for
to postpone.
clarification. So it is currently tabled. We're going to we'll accept a motion to accept it, a motion to deny, or a motion to postpone.
I'll make a motion to postpone that one.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. We have a motion from Tony to postpone from, Commissioner Stein, and a second from Commissioner Allen. Is there any further discussion? All right, hearing none. All in favor of postponement, please signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. All right, hearing none, the motion to postpone passes. Let's take item number 4, please. I'll accept a motion to postpone, a motion to deny, or a motion to approve.
I would ask first if the applicant has any opinion, requests, changes, etc.
In terms of whether or not a postpone is on the cards for us. Yeah, look, I'm in no rush here. I mean, it's a safety issue, not anything else. So it'll give me an opportunity. I don't want to waste your time on one hand, but it'll give me an opportunity to show you the physical challenges of the hammerhead.
Okay. So let me make sure I heard it correctly. Applicant is asking for a postponement to bring back further information regarding some challenges prevented by a different design.
I just say if you choose to postpone, that's fine by me. I'm not necessarily asking for it.
Okay. Is there a motion from the commission?
A motion to postpone.
All right. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right. Commissioner Rhodes motions to postpone. And I think that was Commissioner Nash. Did I have that right?
Correct.
Seconded. Okay. Thank you. Any further discussion of the motion?
I was just going to ask that if the applicant comes back, to the extent you can provide a few pictures of the side condition, and I'm not trying to spend your design dollars, but if you've got a survey that can, if you've got somebody that can either lay it out or even, just sort of pencil in what the distance is from your face of garage to the curb, so we can sort of just get a feel for what kind of constraints there may be in that hammerhead or turnaround.
Yeah, sure, no problem.
Helpful.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion of the motion? All right, hearing none, we will vote on a motion to postpone item number 4. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please
Aye.
say nay. All right, hearing none in opposition, the motion to postpone passes unanimously. Let's move on to item number 5. We'll entertain a motion to approve, a motion to deny, and a motion to postpone. Would anybody like to make a motion?
This one's a little different than the other two, obviously.
Mm-hmm. All right, we got 4 of us. Who wants to motion here?
Well, I'll make a motion to approve. I think that if this house were sitting next door and was not on a corner, this plan would be approved. So the only distinction there is the fact that the existing driveway doesn't connect with the proposed circle driveway. That's the distinction. And Jordan, you brought up some good points about a lack of clarity in the code as to whether it's even prevented anyway. And I think it's, you know, to Jamil's point, it's a less impactful.
Motion, buddy.
This is a preamble to my motion. I haven't made a motion yet.
All right, move it.
I'm giving my reasons.
We'll see if it gets seconded, and then we can discuss the motion. How's that sound?
I'm not allowed to give my opinion before I make a motion.
You typically move it, second it, and then we discuss.
All right. I'll make a motion to approve.
All right.
I'll second.
All right, there you go, your second. Tony, you were
I had the second. Wow, Mike just jumps in there and steals it from me. All right. Fine.
All right. Commissioner Stein moved to approve. Commissioner Rhodes seconded. Tony, you were saying? It's now your post-amble.
Well, I think I was about finished, but I think it doesn't, to Jamil's point, I don't think it impacts the flow of pedestrian and vehicular traffic, you know, at a busy intersection in the same way that the other two potentially do. That was my reasoning.
Okay. Any further discussion on the motion prior to a vote? Brian, this is your chance, bud.
I'm in favor of it. I don't know. I guess I'm not entirely certain I have a strong belief. I don't have a strong belief against curb cuts, I guess. Maybe that's it. But this one definitely seems like it's a helpful safety adjustment as well. So,
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And obviously we're making the assumption that it meets, you know, all the, you know, requirements for a circular drive, but I assume Kerry has or is reviewing for that.
I think, you know, my other, as Tony mentioned, and as you mentioned, Jordan, what I was trying to read as we were talking, I'm not even sure if this is disallowed by the code. So I don't know if our approval is needed here, I guess. That's the other thing I'm kind of wondering, but to the extent it's needed, I'm in favor.
Okay. Mike, Jamil, anything you'd like to add before we vote?
I mean, I'm inclined to support this one. I think it's a safety improvement. I'm not in favor of these generally. I think the other two are more problematic, but I think there's a driveway right by me. I think my next door neighbor has this exact same scenario on a corner lot. It's unobtrusive. It doesn't cut across the corner, and I think it's a reasonable ask.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not going to repeat myself, but Vaughn, this is not anything really specific to your application in so much as I'm not a fan of multiple curb cuts, so I won't support it.
All right. I will call the question then. If there's no further discussion, all in favor, please signify. We're actually gonna do a roll call on this. Or actually, no, I'll just say all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All right. Any opposed? Say nay.
Nay.
Okay. Motion passes 4-1. 4-1. Okay. Motion passes 4-1. All right. Thank you to the applicants. We appreciate your time tonight. Sorry it took us a long time to get down here. We just don't do this kind of thing. We don't really have experience with it. And I'm just going to say, and then Charlie's going to cut me off, that I really don't want to do these anymore and want to get council to bring these over to Board of Adjustment. So not allowed to talk about that anymore. Charlie's going to tell me to be quiet, not on the agenda. So, All right. Well, let's go ahead then and move on then to item number 6. If I can zoom forward. Discussion on intent to continue serving on the Rollingwood Planning and Zoning Commission. And I'm going to propose we take 6 and 7 together, which is discussion and possible action to elect a chair for the Planning and Zoning Commission. So, all right, y'all. Prior to taking these on, I have to extend an apology to our task force on accessory units, accessory buildings. They asked to be on this. I totally dropped the ball, and I apologize to them. I promise, Tony, that was not me playing 3D chess trying to get you all to realize that I'm busy. I'm over here losing at checkers, so I'll just say that. To that note, every year this time, generally the mayor's asking for those who would like to continue their service. We, of course, appreciate your service. I do. I think the commission's been really firing on all cylinders now for a couple of years and really do enjoy it and appreciate y'all doing this. So I think we run January to December. Am I right, Carrie? And it's a 1-year appointment?
Yes.
Sorry, I said Carrie, I meant Amber. Or is that Ashley?
This is Ashley. Yes,
Okay.
they are 1 years, or they're 1-year appointments for chair or other offices, but they're 2-year terms. So you'll see on that list that 3 members are their term is ending in December of 2020. The other 4 are good for another year. It's just the president that's a yearly election, basically.
Oh, please, let's not give him a bigger head than he already has. He's not president of anything. He's the chair.
The chair, I'm
That's
sorry.
it.
Hold on.
President of Planning and Zoning.
He's been wielding this power like way too much already. I don't want him. I'm just kidding, Jordan. Of course.
No,
Please
that's
continue
fine.
to serve as chair. Prez, I like it.
I just want to make sure my title is clear to everybody. All right, so it looks like Mike, myself, and Jamil are finishing up our stints. The rest of you all are stuck, so you're not allowed off. We will not be accepting any resignations. Mike, I think you were filling in for a spot, if I'm correct. We'd love to have you stay on, and you bring a really good point of view to the commission. So I'll say that. Before he responds, does anybody else want to sing his praises?
Please, no.
You seem like a nice guy.
Thank you. I wasn't planning on leaving, Jordan. I didn't know
Okay.
I didn't know my days were numbered, but yeah. Otherwise, good to go.
Yo, I will admit I didn't know my days were numbered either. So I'm out. Good luck. Wish you guys the best. It's been wonderful. Been totally I'm serving on the strike force, y'all, and I'll just say for me, I am dropping the ball on this stuff if I'm trying to do both. The strike force was way more reading than I was prepared for, I think. And they are, I think I would like to represent this commission and having served a long time on it, I want to make sure I'm representing what I feel is like all this commission's thoughts that I've been able to hear over the last 3 years. How do I say this nicely? It's not going to be a blue ribbon panel. It's going to be work. I don't think I can do both chair. I can serve on P&Z. It'll be helpful for me to be on P&Z, of course, and report back on what the commission's doing. I can't do both. So I am out as chair, frankly, as soon as possible, but certainly after December. Hopefully y'all got that note. So I'll say that. And Jamil, you have any thoughts that you want to make public, or it's up to you?
Well, I've got lots of thoughts I'd like to make public, but I'm not sure we've got time for those. is an election required at this meeting?
No, I think it's just a chance to recognize that this is what's going on. These are the terms, and we would encourage. I'll just say I've served on commissions, y'all, and council since 2015, and I am excited. And sorry if I get on a soapbox a little bit. I feel like we have a really good commission of experienced commissioners and a pretty interesting opportunity that's coming up from the strike force to actually make effective change in Rollingwood. A lot less where are we going to do curb cuts and airstreams, and a lot more what's the future of Rollingwood look like. I love that our commissioners are experienced, both from their personal lives and from being on this commission and being a part of the Rollingwood infrastructure for a while. So I just love that we're in a great spot right now. And I truly think we have a good number of opinions. And I say this to council members that, like, use us now because we're trained, we're experienced, we've worked together, we know what to do. Now's the time. We're ready. And I truly believe that. So.
And I'll also state on these that as long as we get a confirmation, I will forward these names on to City Council, and they will, reappoint as they see fit for all the boards and commissions at one time. So I'm just sending them on everybody who their term is expiring.
Is that in December or is that in January when they reappoint?
They will do that at their next meeting in November. We're trying to keep it running on the same schedule as council appointments, but it is for the term beginning in January 21.
And so if I were to re-up, it's a 2-year re-up. A 1-year re-up is not an option. Is that right?
It is not. No. It's full 2 years.
Got it. All right. Well, I'm pondering retirement from P&Z. Not in any huge hurry. So let me give a little bit of thought to it, and I'll loop back and communicate.
If you can let me know before the November council meeting, so we can pass your name on to them. And also, I think that I don't think anybody would be upset if you continued serving, into the next term. And then a lot of people on here have filled vacancies in the middle of terms as well. So I think as long as you're still wanting to serve, I'm not sure you'd have to commit to the full 2 years. I think the commission would appreciate, whatever they could get.
Yeah, or if people are interested in curb cuts, maybe they'd be anxious for me to leave.
If you resign midterm, you don't get your full pay, though. Be clear about that.
Full pay. Jordan, I would suggest that we add the curb cut to the February agenda for 2021. Just kidding. Jamil, stay on. You have to, man.
Well, let me go ahead and get my application in for a curb cut with a circle drive before you do that.
There you go.
Yeah, I'll close the loop here quickly. Thank you.
Well, I wish I could make a motion to deny your resignation, Jordan, but I don't think that's protocol.
On the chairmanship aspect?
Yeah. I just wish you could stick around.
You're too good at your job, Jordan. And if it's not you, it's going to have to be Tony. So, I mean, those are the two choices. And I just.
Well, then I'll resign now.
Yeah, I just got to throw up my hand and say I can't do both well. I just can't. There's too many things in my life pulling me different ways, and I would love to be a good, effective representative of the strike force to this commission.
Yeah.
So I know you served on planning and zoning and then left and came back, as I recall. Do we know if there's any other folks that have chaired or participated in P&Z in the past who've been off for a while who we might be able to recruit to come back and then maybe we give them one meeting and then tell them they're chair?
Well, I mean, Amy was mayor at one point, so I mean, we have an ex-mayor on the commission. She can
really?
run a meeting. Yeah. So when it comes to setting an agenda and running a meeting, we have experience on it. And honestly, any one of y'all can do this job. It's not rocket science, and the staff has been extremely helpful in making sure everything runs smoothly. So I do appreciate their effort. I'm just starting to drop a few balls when it comes to this, and I don't like that feeling.
Ashley and I can train any of you.
Is there any action item on this? I think there's not, right?
Nope. We can move on to the next. Let me pull it up real quick. All right. Next, discussion city council looking at the Arbor Day Foundation, number 8, which is going to be on page 110. I did not get an update from them. The basic idea is that there's some additional things that we could do and add into, or let me ask this, staff, anybody want to, Carrie, as I think you're now our city arborist. Do you want to take me through what the plan is here?
I am still working to become the city arborist. I'm not currently the city arborist. This item was something mentioned by Sarah. It's my understanding that it's just a designation. It does require some monetary input from the city, but my understanding is that my training might count towards some of that. I'll be honest, I'm not overly familiar with it.
Okay. I confess I got this confused with something else I'd spoken to a few council members on. There are a few nonprofits out there who will help pay for new trees. I totally got confused. So let me do
and
this.
Also, I'll mention, this is Ashley. They did kind of send this over with the hope that y'all would look at maybe some other programs as well, and kind of, not just going with this one program, but checking into other similar programs, and if there were others that, provided trees. So I think that was the intention of City Council, to have y'all consider adding other programs as well.
Yeah, the city of Austin has a partnership with a foundation that provides free trees for those in need. One of the things we did hear from certain members of the community, David Smith, was that the expense of trees is sometimes difficult. And that if there are foundations out there who are interested in working with municipalities, we should find them and make them part of our program to encourage canopy. I confess I'm struggling how this requires a modification of an ordinance, unless there's some program that would somehow modify the ordinance. But I think I need to talk to Sarah.
This requires that we establish a tree board. So much like the commission that we're all on here, there would be a tree board. Then we would also, standard number 2 requires a tree care ordinance, in which case we would have to make sure our ordinance qualifies. I was kind of skimming over what that would require, but you'd do a comparison there. And then you have to have a community forestry program with an annual budget of at least $2 per capita. And then an Arbor Day observance and proclamation. Those are your 4 requirements to be considered a tree city. So these each have sub-elements to it.
Where does it affect an ordinance, though?
What's that? What would the qualifying ordinance be?
Establishing the tree board underneath the tree ordinance.
Yeah, that's part of it. It says a key section of a qualifying ordinance is one that establishes the tree board,
okay,
or forestry department, or both, and gives one of them the responsibility for public tree care. It should also assign the task of crafting and implementing a plan of work for annual tree care activities. I think we'd need to study this a little bit. We may be already doing some of these things, but it's interesting. I feel like if it's consistent with what we're already doing, then that's great. If it's going to have a lot of additional onerous requirements, that sounds scary.
Yeah, what are the benefits if you do all these things? Then what? You're designated a tree city, but what does that get you?
Good question. I clicked on benefits.
What's in it for me?
Yeah.
Circle
Well,
driveways
it reduces,
for everybody.
It's all a bunch of hand waving on benefits. You reduce the cost for energy, storm management, and erosion control because of all your great trees you've planted. Cut energy consumption. I mean, I think you get to wear a badge and maybe put a.
But it doesn't even say anything about planting trees either. I mean, it just. I don't know about this one.
Gain publicity with recognition materials.
What if I plant a 13-inch cedar elm in my circular driveway in the front? Do I get anything for that?
And you can never take it down. That 13-inch cedar elm will be there forever, especially if it's in the setback.
Yeah, I don't really see why we would want to be in this.
It's kind of like the you know how some of the communities were pushing to be what's the low light?
Oh, yeah.
Light, you know, that designation.
Dark
it's something
skies.
that you dark skies initiative, right? So if you're designated a dark skies city, you kind of get to brand that and say like, hey, we're a dark skies city. That's great. I don't think there's a meaningful benefit to us. We don't get any like subsidies or anything other than to brag about that. I don't know that we need that though, personally. That's my opinion. We're not in it for the accolades. We're just into it to do what's right.
Well, I will say there are some out there that give benefits. Austin is partnered with treefolks.org. Is there an interest on this commission in looking at ways we can expand our tree friendliness?
Expand it?
Yeah, I mean, council sort of asked, do you all want to take a look at this? Do we want to take a look at this?
Like beyond seeing like other programs. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it doesn't have to be this particular program that's been suggested, but do we want to look at other ways that the city might engage with other organizations to help with tree friendliness? Like, I mean, we just do it. I'm just saying, do we want to officially do it as planning and zoning? Do we want to ask the strike force to consider this, and dark skies for that matter, to get guidance? Do we want to get feedback from the city of Rollingwood? Do we want to just say, no more boards, please? Like, there's enough boards, which frankly, I'm kind of falling in that side of like, if this requires another board in this town, we're already strained as it is to fill the boards we got.
Yeah, I'm in the no more boards, less regulation. I know this isn't regulation, but it's probably one more checklist for somebody.
Yeah, I mean, we used to have no tree ordinance. We've got, you know, a substantive tree ordinance now. I think we're, you know, we're protecting trees more than we ever have, arguably, as a community. And I don't know if we need any designations to cement that.
I don't think we need to expand the coverage of tree protection.
Okay.
I'm going to go ahead and designate us a happy tree neighborhood.
Yep, officially designated as said in P&Z meeting on 11/4.
There we go.
Well done.
I have a second.
Second.
Is there a motion there? Can I just make a happy tree label and put it on my chest?
You have to label every tree.
There we go. We're happy trees. All right, then doesn't sound like there's any action to be taken then on this this agenda item. Okay. Lordy, why is this being a problem for me? All right, any further discussion on this topic? All right, hearing none, we'll move on to our next topic item, and I'll try to make this quick. The strike force, y'all. It is, we've had 2 meetings. They have, as you can imagine, been, it gets better. They're, I will tell you, I think it's a good team. We're, as all these things are at the beginning, there's a little bit of struggle to make sure we all understand what our charge is, what our mission is, where we're going. The first meeting, we got kind of in the weeds real fast. The second meeting was a discussion of how to stay high and big picture focused. And there's a lot of discussion about another survey and a lot of action towards generating additional questions for another survey that hits some of the larger topics, as opposed to some of them that maybe get down in the weeds. So expect at this next one, I would love to be, there's nothing to show you all right now. There's no survey questions out there that we're ready to share. There's just ideas around it. But at our next meeting, I like to bring back some of the specific topics that are starting to come up and hear some of the topics that this commission would like to bring up. I specifically brought up our issues with making sure we have guidance around attached, detached, and accessory dwellings, the estate lots issue, and one more which I have lost in my notes here. So I mentioned those 3 as items that we're struggling with, along with trees, along with other items. So the action on it is the ability to create some additional survey questions to get input and questions that we can ask, not just in surveys, but in public meetings. I will tell you what I'm hearing from the public is there's a lack of understanding that these strike force meetings are public and available for anyone to attend. So I will say that here, not that we have a lot of people watching, but y'all are, of course, invited to come in to attend. I'm happy to take your questions for the commission and read them to the commission. I'm going to work to reflect what I've learned on this commission over, basically since 2015 and bring that experience to the strike force and see if we can't get additional information. I will tell you the last thing I've been asking for, perhaps biggest picture, is that we include focusing on 80% of the dirt of Rollingwood, which is our single family residence area, which wasn't really addressed in the first survey. And I think have laid pretty good groundwork with the strike force to recognize that we do want to address, as we're addressing the commercial district, we are also looking at our single family area. And pardon me, I just remembered the third one, which is drainage. I said those are the areas of things that we're looking at and struggling with and would like guidance from the city through conversations in a survey. Any questions?
No questions from me.
No.
In this next one, I'm going to be taking my notes and writing them up for y'all, so you'll have something you can read about what's going on. And I want to keep y'all informed, especially as generally the thought on this, y'all, is that the first step is to get a plan. The next step is to then codify the plan. That's where P&Z will actually go into a lot of action as a commission, is in the codification of some of the zoning. Is taking these ideas and figuring out how to turn them into changes to our ordinances, plural. All right. Timeline on this, still they're talking about early next year. My gut tells me it's going to take longer than we are currently envisioning as a strike force. All right. That's my update for today. I will get you a written one by the next meeting. Okay. Scheduling, planning, future meeting dates, and agenda items. Y'all, we are on for December. We do have an existing agenda item. And again, I apologize to our task force. That will be the number 3 item on our next meeting will be addressing the recommendations from the task force. And again, apologies for not getting that into this agenda. All right. That's all we've got. Anybody have any questions then about future meeting dates? Ashley, we're not going to meet in January, correct?
No, I think that is right up against New Year's, but if there were any requests, we could always move it. But I think currently we have it where we don't have a meeting scheduled unless needed.
Actually, we may have a plat.
Can we get that in by December?
Plat?
Yeah.
I believe so, yeah. There should be time.
Charlie, is it legal to threaten the applicant that we're going to deny them out of hand if they bring it in January? Or is that not something we should do? I'm just curious.
Not something I would recommend.
Okay, you don't recommend threatening them with that. Okay, good. I just want to clarify. We'd love to see it in December. All right. Well, if there's no further discussion on that, let's hope we get our plat in December. We are going to be addressing accessory unit buildings. I keep wanting to call them accessory dwelling units, and I know that that's not right. So accessory buildings, and look forward to, unfortunately, not being able to see y'all, but seeing y'all online here in December. All right, you guys, is there a motion to adjourn? All in favor, raise your hands and say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay.
Aye.
All right, motion passes unanimously. Thank you, staff. Charlie, thank you. We appreciate y'all going along with us today.
Thank y'all.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Have a good one.
All right, y'all. Thank you.